friends and family will sabotage your success, and they won't even realize they're doing it. When you start becoming disciplined, when you start reading instead of watching television, exercising instead of staying comfortable, saving instead of spending, they'll call you obsessed. They'll say you're no fun anymore. They'll try to pull you back down to their level because your discipline makes them uncomfortable about their lack of discipline. Your success will remind them of their excuses. Your progress will highlight their stagnation. The people closest to you will become your biggest obstacles, not because they don't love you, but because they love their comfort zones more than they love your potential. Let me tell you something that changed my life forever. Discipline is the bridge between thought and accomplishment. It's the bridge between inspiration and achievement. It's the bridge between necessity and productivity. But most people look at discipline all wrong. They think discipline is something that restricts them, something that takes away their freedom. Let me tell you the truth about discipline. Discipline is what gives you freedom. I learned this lesson the hard way. When I was 25 years old, I had pennies in my pocket and nothing in the bank. I was going nowhere fast. I had all the same opportunities that successful people had, but I wasn't disciplined enough to take advantage of them. I had the same 24 hours in a day that millionaires had, but I was wasting mine. I had the same access to books, to knowledge, to wisdom, but I wasn't disciplined enough to read them. Then I met a man who became my mentor. He taught me something that revolutionized my entire existence. He said, "Jim, if you want to be successful, if you want to be wealthy, if you want to be happy, you must learn the art of discipline. Everything else is secondary." At first, I didn't understand what he meant. I thought success was about finding the right opportunity, the right job, the right business. But he taught me that success is about becoming the right person. And becoming the right person requires discipline. Here's what I discovered about discipline. It's not about doing big things. It's about doing small things consistently. Most people think discipline means you have to climb Mount Everest or run a marathon. That's not discipline. That's intensity. Discipline is brushing your teeth every night before bed. Discipline is reading 10 pages of a good book instead of watching television. Discipline is putting money in your savings account instead of spending it on things you don't need. The problem with most people is they're looking for the big breakthrough, the magic moment, the lottery ticket that's going to change their life. But success doesn't work that way. Success is built on the foundation of small daily disciplines. It's what you do every day that determines where you end up in life, not what you do once in a while. Let me give you an example. Let's say you decide to read for 30 minutes every day. Just 30 minutes. That doesn't sound like much, does it? But in 1 year, that's 180 hours of reading. That's the equivalent of 4.5 weeks of full-time study. In 5 years, that's 900 hours. That's almost 6 months of full-time education, all from 30 minutes a day. This is what I call the compound effect of discipline. Small disciplines repeated over time create massive results. But here's the thing about the compound effect. It works both ways. Small errors in judgment, repeated over time, create massive failure. Skip reading for 30 minutes a day and you'll be the same person in 5 years that you are today, maybe worse. The challenge with discipline is that the results are not immediate. When you eat an apple, you don't immediately get healthy. When you eat a piece of cake, you don't immediately get fat. The effects of our daily disciplines, whether good or bad, are not seen right away. They accumulate over time. This is why most people struggle with discipline. They want instant results. They want to see the payoff immediately. But that's not how life works. Life rewards patience. Life rewards consistency. Life rewards discipline. If you can learn to do the things you should do, when you should do them, whether you feel like it or not, success becomes inevitable. Not immediate, but inevitable. I remember when I first started working on my personal development. My mentor gave me a list of books to read. The list was long. I looked at it and thought, this is going to take forever. He said, "Jim, you're going to be somewhere in 5 years anyway. The question is, where do you want to be? Do you want to be the same person you are today? Or do you want to be someone who has grown, someone who has learned, someone who has developed?" And that's when it hit me. Time is going to pass whether I'm disciplined or not. 5 years from now, I'm going to be 5 years older. The question is, what am I going to have to show for those 5 years? Am I going to be the same person with the same problems, the same limitations, the same results? Or am I going to be someone who has transformed his life through the power of daily discipline? The beauty of discipline is that it starts to compound immediately. The first day you're disciplined, you feel better about yourself. Your self-respect goes up. Your confidence increases. You start to see yourself differently. You start to believe that change is possible. And when you believe change is possible, you start acting like the person you want to become. This is the secret that most people miss. Discipline doesn't just change your circumstances. It changes you. When you become disciplined in one area of your life, it starts to spill over into other areas. When you discipline yourself to exercise regularly, you start eating better. When you discipline yourself to read regularly, you start managing your time better. When you discipline yourself to save money regularly, you start making better financial decisions. Discipline is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. The stronger it gets, the easier it becomes to be disciplined in other areas of your life. This is why successful people seem to be successful in multiple areas. It's not because they're lucky. It's because they've developed the discipline muscle, and they use it everywhere. But here's what you need to understand about building discipline. You don't start with the hard stuff. You start with the easy stuff. You start with things you know you can do consistently. Maybe it's making your bed every morning. Maybe it's drinking a glass of water as soon as you wake up. Maybe it's writing down 3 things you're grateful for before you go to sleep. The key is to start small and be consistent. Don't try to change your entire life overnight. That's not discipline. That's enthusiasm. And enthusiasm without discipline leads to frustration and failure. Discipline is about steady, consistent progress. It's about showing up every day, even when you don't feel like it. I've learned that discipline is the master key that unlocks all other doors. Want to be wealthy? You need the discipline to save and invest regularly. Want to be healthy? You need the discipline to exercise and eat right consistently. Want to have great relationships? You need the discipline to be patient, kind, and understanding even when it's difficult. Every goal you have, every dream you want to achieve, every problem you want to solve requires discipline. There's no way around it. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but without discipline, knowledge is useless. You can have all the opportunities in the world, but without discipline, opportunities are wasted. You can have all the talent in the world, but without discipline, talent is squandered. The good news is that discipline is a skill. It can be learned. It can be developed. It can be improved. You're not born disciplined or undisciplined. You become disciplined through practice, through repetition, through commitment to doing what you say you're going to do. When you say you're going to do it. This is where most people make their first mistake. They think discipline is about willpower. They think it's about being tough and forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. But that's not sustainable. Willpower is limited. It runs out. Discipline is different. Discipline is about creating systems and habits that make the right choices automatic. When you're disciplined, you don't have to think about whether or not you're going to exercise. You just do it because it's what you do. You don't have to debate with yourself about whether or not you're going to read. You just do it because it's part of who you are. You don't have to struggle with the decision to save money. You just do it because it's your habit. This is the freedom that discipline provides. When you have good habits, when you have strong disciplines, you don't have to make hard decisions every day. The decisions are already made. You just follow your system. You just stick to your routine. You just do what disciplined people do. And here's the beautiful part. The more disciplined you become, the more freedom you have. The more you control your habits, the less your habits control you. The more you master yourself, the more you can master your circumstances. The more you discipline your daily actions. Now let me tell you about the daily practice of discipline. Because understanding discipline is one thing, but living it is another. The secret to discipline is not in the big moments. It's in the small moments. It's in what you do when nobody's watching. It's in what you do when you don't feel like doing it. It's in those quiet moments when you have a choice between the easy thing and the right thing. Your day begins the moment you open your eyes. That first moment, That first decision sets the tone for everything that follows. Most people wake up and immediately check their phone. They let the world dictate their first thoughts of the day. But disciplined people, they take control of their morning. They understand that how you start your day determines how you live your day. I learned this principle many years ago, and it changed everything for me. I started waking up 30 minutes earlier than I needed to. Not to do more work, but to do the right work, to prepare my mind for the day ahead. To read something that would inspire me. To think about my goals. To plan my priorities. That 30 minutes became the most valuable 30 minutes of my entire day. Here's what happens when you control your morning. You start the day as the victor instead of the victim. You start the day with intention instead of reaction. You start the day with purpose instead of pressure. And when you start your day right, everything else tends to fall into place. But discipline isn't just about morning routines. It's about every routine. It's about the promises you make to yourself and whether you keep them. Every time you tell yourself you're going to do something and then you do it, you build trust with yourself. Every time you tell yourself you're going to do something and then you don't do it, you break trust with yourself. Most people don't realize they're having this conversation with themselves all day long. I'll start my diet on Monday. I'll exercise tomorrow. I'll start saving money next month. I'll read that book when I have more time. These might seem like small broken promises, but they add up. They create a pattern. They create a relationship with yourself based on disappointment and excuses. Disciplined people do something different. They make smaller promises, but they keep them. They say, I'll read for 10 minutes today, and then they do it. They say, I'll save $5 today, and then they do it. They say, I'll take a 10-minute walk today, and then they do it. Small promises kept consistently create a relationship with yourself based on trust and reliability. This is why I always tell people to start with something so small you can't fail. Don't start with running 5 miles. Start with putting on your running shoes. Don't start with reading for 2 hours. Start with reading 1 page. Don't start with saving $1,000. Start with saving $1. The goal is not the activity itself. The goal is building the habit of keeping promises to yourself. Once you start keeping small promises to yourself, something magical happens. You start believing in yourself. You start trusting yourself. You start seeing yourself as someone who does what they say they're going to do. And when you see yourself that way, you start acting that way in bigger areas of your life. Let me share with you the power of small daily disciplines. I knew a man who decided to write 1 page every day, just 1 page. Some days it was good, some days it wasn't so good, but he did it every day for 1 year. At the end of the year, he had 365 pages. That's a book, a complete book, all from 1 page a day. Another person I knew decided to put $10 in a jar every day, just $10. Some days he wanted to skip it. Some days he needed that $10 for something else. But he stayed disciplined. He put $10 in that jar every single day. At the end of 1 year, he had over $3,600, plus the interest, if he had put it in the bank. All from $10 a day. These are the kinds of results that come from small daily disciplines. But here's what most people do. They look at these examples and they think, that's not much. 1 page a day won't make me a famous writer. $10 a day won't make me rich. They're missing the point. The page a day makes you a writer. The $10 a day makes you a saver. The discipline makes you disciplined. Consistency beats intensity every single time. The person who exercises for 20 minutes every day for a year will be in better shape than the person who exercises for 4 hours once a week. The person who reads for 15 minutes every day will learn more than the person who reads for 8 hours once a month. The person who saves a small amount every day will have more money than the person who tries to save a large amount once in a while. Why is this true? Because consistency builds habits, and habits create lasting change. When you do something consistently, it becomes part of who you are. It becomes automatic. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to motivate yourself. You just do it because it's what you do. But intensity is different. Intensity requires motivation. It requires energy. It requires perfect conditions. And motivation comes and goes. Energy goes up and down. Perfect conditions rarely exist. That's why intensity doesn't create lasting change. It creates temporary results that disappear as soon as the intensity stops. This is why most diets fail. People approach dieting with intensity instead of consistency. They completely change everything they eat. They exercise for hours every day. They lose weight quickly, but it's not sustainable. After a few weeks or months, they burn out. They go back to their old habits. They gain the weight back. Sometimes they gain more weight than they lost. The discipline approach is different. Instead of changing everything, you change one thing. Instead of exercising for hours, you exercise for minutes. Instead of completely eliminating foods you enjoy, you reduce the portions. Instead of trying to be perfect, you try to be consistent. The results come slower, but they last longer. I want you to understand something important about discipline and self-respect. Every time you do what you say you're going to do, your self-respect goes up. Every time you don't do what you say you're going to do, your self-respect goes down. Self-respect is not something you can fake. You can't talk yourself into it. You can't wish it into existence. You earn it through your actions. You earn it through discipline. When your self-respect is high, everything else in your life improves. You make better decisions because you believe you deserve better results. You take better care of yourself because you believe you're worth taking care of. You set higher standards because you believe you can achieve them. You attract better opportunities because you carry yourself like someone who deserves better opportunities. But when your self-respect is low, everything suffers. You make poor decisions because you don't believe you deserve better. You neglect yourself because you don't believe you're worth the effort. You accept less than you should because you don't believe you can achieve more. You attract poor opportunities because you carry yourself like someone who doesn't deserve better. This is why discipline is so important. It's not just about achieving your goals. It's about becoming the kind of person who achieves goals. It's about building the self-respect that comes from doing what you say you're going to do. It's about creating a relationship with yourself based on trust and reliability. The daily practice of discipline starts with simple things. Make your bed every morning. Not because making your bed is going to make you successful, but because it starts your day with a completed task. It starts your day with a small victory. It starts your day with a habit of doing things right. Eat something healthy every day, not because one healthy meal is going to transform your health, but because it reinforces your identity as someone who takes care of their body. It reminds you that you're worth taking care of. It builds the habit of making good choices. Read something educational every day, not because reading for 10 minutes is going to make you brilliant, but because it reinforces your identity as someone who is always learning. It reminds you that you're committed to growing. It builds the habit of feeding your mind with good information. Save some money every day, not because saving $1 is going to make you wealthy, but because it reinforces your identity as someone who thinks about the future. It reminds you that you're building something. It builds the habit of delayed gratification. These simple daily practices might seem insignificant, but they're not. They're the foundation of a disciplined life. They're the building blocks of success. They're the habits that separate successful people from unsuccessful people. The beautiful thing about daily disciplines is that they become easier over time. In the beginning, you have to think about them. You have to remind yourself. You have to push yourself. But after a while, they become automatic. They become part of your routine. They become part of who you are. When discipline becomes part of who you are, success becomes inevitable. Not immediate, but inevitable. Because disciplined people do disciplined things. And disciplined things produce disciplined results. It's that simple. It's that powerful. It's that life-changing. Now let me tell you about the enemies of discipline. Because if you're going to build a disciplined life, you need to know what you're fighting against. The biggest enemy of discipline is not external. It's not your circumstances. It's not other people. It's not lack of time or lack of money. The biggest enemy of discipline is the voice inside your head that says just this once. Just this once is the most dangerous phrase in the English language when it comes to discipline. Just this once I'll skip my workout. Just this once I'll eat the whole pizza. Just this once I'll spend the money instead of saving it. Just this once I'll watch television instead of reading. That voice sounds so reasonable, doesn't it? So harmless, so understanding. But here's what that voice doesn't tell you. There is no such thing as just this once. When it comes to habits, every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. When you skip your workout, you're voting to become the kind of person who doesn't exercise. When you eat poorly, you're voting to become the kind of person who doesn't take care of their health. When you waste your money, you're voting to become the kind of person who doesn't think about the future. The voice that says just this once is really saying just change who you are, just for today. But that's not how identity works. You are what you repeatedly do. You become what you consistently choose. There is no just this once, because every once adds up. Every exception becomes the rule. Every compromise becomes the standard. I learned this lesson the hard way many years ago. I had started a new discipline of reading for 30 minutes every day. I was doing well for about 3 weeks. Then one evening I was tired. I had worked late. I just wanted to relax and watch television. The voice in my head said, just this once, skip the reading. You've been doing so well. One day won't matter. So I skipped it. And you know what happened? The next day it was easier to skip it again, and the day after that even easier. Within a week I wasn't reading at all. I had gone from being someone who reads every day to being someone who used to read every day, all because of just this once. That's when I learned one of the most important lessons of my life. It's easier to keep a discipline than to start it again. It's easier to maintain momentum than to create momentum. It's easier to stay disciplined than to become disciplined. Once you break the chain, you have to start all over again. And starting over is always harder than keeping going. This is why successful people seem so rigid about their habits. It's not because they enjoy being rigid. It's because they understand the power of momentum. They understand that every exception makes the next exception easier. They understand that the moment you start negotiating with yourself, you've already lost. But the just this once voice is not the only enemy of discipline. There's another voice that's just as dangerous, the perfectionist voice. This voice says, if you can't do it perfectly, don't do it at all. This voice makes you wait for the perfect time, the perfect plan, the perfect circumstances. The perfectionist voice says, don't start exercising until you can commit to going to the gym every single day. Don't start saving money until you can save a lot of money. Don't start reading until you can read for hours at a time. This voice sounds like it's holding you to a high standard, but really it's preventing you from starting at all. Here's the truth about perfectionism. It's not about excellence. It's about fear. It's about the fear of not being good enough. It's about the fear of making mistakes. It's about the fear of looking foolish. But mistakes are how you learn. Imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. You can improve something you never start. The antidote to perfectionism is progress, not perfection. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to be better than you were yesterday. If you read for 5 minutes today when you read for 0 minutes yesterday, that's progress. If you save $1 today when you saved 0 yesterday, that's progress. Progress is what builds momentum. Progress is what creates confidence. Progress is what leads to breakthrough. But perfectionism kills momentum. Perfectionism destroys confidence. Perfectionism prevents breakthrough. Don't let perfectionism stop you from starting. Don't let the pursuit of perfect prevent you from being better. Another enemy of discipline is the comparison trap. This is when you look at other people and measure your progress against theirs. You see someone who's further along than you are, and you get discouraged. You think, what's the point? I'll never be as good as they are. I'm too far behind. I should just give up. But comparison is the thief of joy and the killer of discipline. When you compare yourself to others, you're comparing your beginning to their middle. You're comparing your struggles to their success. You're comparing your worst days to their best days. That's not fair to you, and it's not accurate. Everyone starts somewhere. Everyone struggles. Everyone has setbacks. The successful people you admire, they didn't start out successful. They started out like you, uncertain, inexperienced, making mistakes. The only difference is they kept going. They stayed disciplined. They didn't let comparison stop them from progressing. The only comparison that matters is the comparison between who you are today and who you were yesterday. Are you better today than you were yesterday? Are you more disciplined today than you were yesterday? Are you closer to your goals today than you were yesterday? If the answer is yes, you're winning. If the answer is no, you know what you need to work on. Setbacks are another enemy of discipline, but they don't have to be. Setbacks are inevitable. Everyone has them. The question is not whether you'll have setbacks. The question is how you'll respond to them. Will you let them stop you, or will you let them teach you? Most people let setbacks stop them. They miss one workout and they quit exercising. They eat one bad meal and they abandon their diet. They spend money impulsively once and they stop trying to save. They see the setback as proof that they don't have what it takes. They see it as evidence that they're not disciplined enough. But disciplined people see setbacks differently. They see them as information. They see them as learning opportunities. They see them as temporary detours, not permanent destinations. When they have a setback, they ask themselves, what can I learn from this? How can I prevent this from happening again? What do I need to change? The key to handling setbacks is to get back on track as quickly as possible. Don't waste time feeling guilty. Don't waste time making excuses. Don't waste time beating yourself up. Just get back on track. The faster you get back on track, the less damage the setback causes. The longer you stay off track, the harder it becomes to get back on track. Think of discipline like a bank account. Every time you do what you say you're going to do, you make a deposit. Every time you don't do what you say you're going to do, you make a withdrawal. Setbacks are withdrawals, but they don't have to bankrupt you. As long as you make more deposits than withdrawals, you stay in the positive. As long as you're disciplined more often than you're undisciplined, you're building momentum. This is why I tell people to focus on the next decision, not the last decision. The last decision is in the past. You can't change it, but the next decision is in your control. You can make it a good one. You can make it a disciplined one. You can make it a decision that moves you forward instead of backward. Another enemy of discipline is the need for immediate gratification. We live in an instant society. We want everything now: fast food, fast internet, fast results. But discipline is about delayed gratification. It's about doing what's hard now, so life will be easier later. It's about sacrificing what you want right now for what you want most. The marshmallow test proved this years ago. Children who could delay gratification, who could wait for a second marshmallow instead of eating the first one immediately, were more successful later in life. They had better grades, better relationships, better careers, better health, all because they learned to wait, all because they learned to delay gratification. This is one of the most important skills you can develop: the ability to say no to what you want right now, so you can say yes to what you want most. The ability to choose long-term benefits over short-term pleasures. The ability to invest in your future instead of just living for today. But our culture makes this harder and harder. We're constantly bombarded with messages that tell us we deserve to have everything we want right now. Credit cards let us buy things we can't afford. Streaming services let us watch whatever we want whenever we want. Social media gives us instant access to everyone and everything. The disciplined person swims against this current. They choose to wait. They choose to save. They choose to work. They choose to sacrifice. Not because they enjoy sacrifice, but because they understand that temporary sacrifice leads to permanent improvement. They understand that discipline is not punishment. Discipline is freedom. When you develop the ability to delay gratification, you develop the ability to achieve anything you want, because anything worth having takes time. Anything worth achieving requires patience. Anything worth building requires discipline. The people who have what you want are the people who were willing to do what you're not willing to do. They were willing to wait. They were willing to work. Little life. They were willing to work. They were willing to be disciplined. The final enemy of discipline I want to talk about is the belief that willpower is enough. Most people think discipline is about willpower. They think it's about being tough. They think it's about forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. But willpower is limited. It gets depleted. It runs out. This is why people who rely on willpower alone always fail eventually. They start strong. They're motivated. They're determined. But after a few days or weeks, their willpower gets depleted. They get tired of forcing themselves. They get tired of struggling. They give up. Discipline is not about willpower. Discipline is about systems. It's about creating an environment that makes the right choices easy and the wrong choices hard. It's about building habits that automate good behavior. It's about designing your life so that discipline becomes natural instead of forced. Instead of relying on willpower to eat healthy, create a system where healthy food is always available and unhealthy food is not. Instead of relying on willpower to exercise, create a system where exercise is convenient and missing exercise is inconvenient. Instead of relying on willpower to save money, create a system where money is automatically saved before you have a chance to spend it. Systems beat willpower every time. Systems are sustainable. Systems are reliable. Systems work whether you feel like it or not. When you have good systems, discipline becomes easy. When you have bad systems, discipline becomes impossible. Let me tell you about something remarkable that happens when you become disciplined in one area of your life. It starts to spill over into every other area. This is what I call the multiplication effect of discipline. When you master yourself in one small area, you begin to master yourself everywhere. I saw this happen in my own life. When I first started the discipline of reading every day, something interesting occurred. I began eating better without trying. I started managing my time more carefully, without planning to. I became more patient with people, without making that a goal. The discipline of reading was creating discipline in areas I wasn't even working on. Here's why this happens. Discipline is not just an action, it's an identity. When you consistently do disciplined things, you start seeing yourself as a disciplined person, and disciplined people do disciplined things. It becomes who you are, not just what you do. When discipline becomes your identity, it shows up everywhere. Think about it this way. If you see yourself as someone who exercises every day, you're more likely to eat healthy food. Why? Because healthy people eat healthy food, and you now see yourself as a healthy person. If you see yourself as someone who saves money regularly, you're more likely to research before making purchases. Why? Because financially responsible people make informed decisions, and you now see yourself as financially responsible. This is the secret that separates successful people from everyone else. They don't just have disciplined habits, they have a disciplined identity. They don't just do successful things occasionally. They are successful people who do successful things consistently. The identity. But there's something even more powerful about discipline, and it makes you attractive to opportunity. Opportunities are attracted to prepared people. They're attracted to reliable people. They're attracted to disciplined people. When you become known as someone who does what they say they're going to do, when they say they're going to do it, opportunities start seeking you out. I remember a business opportunity that came my way many years ago. The person offering it said something that stuck with me. He said, "Jim, I'm offering this to you not because you're the smartest person I know, not because you have the most money, but because you're the most disciplined. I know that if you say you'll do something, it will get done." That opportunity changed my life. But it didn't come because I was lucky. It came because I had built a reputation for discipline. I had built a reputation for reliability. I had built a reputation for following through. And reputations like that attract opportunities like magnets attract metal. Most people are waiting for their big break. They're waiting for someone to give them a chance. They're waiting for the perfect opportunity to come along. But they don't realize that opportunities are looking for them too. The question is, are you the kind of person that opportunities are looking for? Opportunities look for people who show up on time, people who keep their word, people who finish what they start, people who do excellent work, even when no one is watching, people who are consistent, people who are reliable, people who are disciplined. If you're not that kind of person yet, start becoming that kind of person today. The compound interest of good habits works just like financial compound interest, but it's even more powerful with money. Compound interest takes years to show dramatic results. With habits, compound interest shows results much faster. Every day you're disciplined. You're not just making progress toward your goals. You're becoming the kind of person who achieves goals. Let me give you an example of how this works. When you discipline yourself to exercise regularly, you don't just get physically stronger, you get mentally stronger. You prove to yourself that you can do hard things. You build confidence. You increase your energy. You improve your mood. You sleep better. You think more clearly. All of these benefits spill over into every area of your life. When you discipline yourself to read regularly, you don't just gain knowledge, you expand your vocabulary, you improve your thinking, you expose yourself to new ideas, you become more interesting, you become a better conversationalist, you make better decisions, you see opportunities others miss, all because you disciplined yourself to read for a few minutes every day. This is why successful people seem to be successful in multiple areas. It's not because they're naturally gifted in everything. It's because discipline in one area creates discipline in all areas. The habits that make you successful in business make you successful in relationships. The habits that make you successful in health make you successful in finances. The habits that make you successful anywhere make you successful everywhere. But here's what most people don't understand about the multiplication effect. It takes time to show up. In the beginning, discipline feels like work. It feels like sacrifice. It feels like you're giving up things you enjoy. But as time goes on, discipline starts to feel like freedom. It starts to feel like power. It starts to feel like the most natural thing in the world. When I first started being disciplined about my finances, it felt restrictive. I felt like I was missing out. I felt like I was depriving myself. But as my savings account grew, as my investments increased, as my financial security improved, I realized that discipline wasn't costing me freedom. It was buying me freedom, real freedom, the freedom that comes from not having to worry about money. The same thing happened with my health. When I first started exercising regularly and eating well, it felt like punishment. I wanted to eat what I wanted to eat. I wanted to skip workouts. I wanted to sleep in. But as I got stronger, as I got healthier, as I got more energetic, I realized that discipline wasn't taking away my enjoyment of life. It was giving me a life worth enjoying. This is the ultimate multiplication effect of discipline. It doesn't just improve your circumstances. It improves your capacity to enjoy your circumstances. It doesn't just give you more. It makes you appreciate what you have. It doesn't just make your life better. It makes you better at living life. Now let me tell you about what happens when discipline becomes not just what you do but who you are. When discipline transforms from an effort into an identity, from a practice into a way of life. This is when the real magic happens. This is when discipline stops being something you have to think about and starts being something you just naturally do. After years of practicing discipline, something wonderful occurs. You stop fighting with yourself. You stop having internal debates about whether you're going to exercise today, whether you're going to read today, whether you're going to eat well today. These decisions become automatic because they're part of who you are. You exercise because you're someone who exercises. You read because you're someone who reads. You eat well because you're someone who takes care of their health. This is the difference between temporary motivation and permanent transformation. Motivation gets you started, but identity keeps you going. When your habits align with your identity, when what you do reflects who you are, discipline becomes effortless. It becomes natural. It becomes joyful. And that's what most people don't understand about long-term discipline. They think it's going to be a lifetime of struggle, a lifetime of forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. But the opposite is true. The longer you practice discipline, the easier it becomes, the more natural it feels, the more you actually enjoy it. I remember the exact moment when I realized that discipline had become part of my identity. I was traveling, staying in a hotel, and I woke up at my usual time to read. It wasn't until later that day that I realized I had automatically packed my book, automatically set aside the time, automatically followed my routine, even though I was in a completely different environment. I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to force myself. I just did it because it's who I had become. This is the freedom that long-term discipline provides. When good habits become automatic, you don't have to use willpower anymore. You don't have to make difficult decisions every day. You don't have to rely on motivation or perfect circumstances. You just follow your natural patterns. You just do what comes naturally to the person you've become. But living a disciplined life long-term isn't just about maintaining your habits during good times. It's about maintaining them during difficult times. Life has seasons. There will be times when everything is going well, when discipline feels easy, when you're motivated and energetic. But there will also be times when life gets hard, when you're dealing with challenges, when you're stressed or tired or overwhelmed. The test of true discipline is not what you do when everything is perfect. It's what you do when everything is falling apart. It's whether you maintain your good habits when you don't feel like it. It's whether you stick to your disciplines when they're inconvenient. It's whether you remain consistent when consistency is difficult. I've been through seasons of loss, seasons of stress, seasons of overwhelming responsibility. And I'll tell you honestly, there were times when I wanted to abandon my disciplines, times when I wanted to skip my reading, skip my exercise, skip my planning, times when I told myself that I had more important things to worry about than my daily habits. But that's exactly when discipline matters most. That's when you need the stability that good habits provide. That's when you need the strength that comes from taking care of yourself. That's when you need the clarity that comes from reading and learning. That's when you need the energy that comes from exercise and good nutrition. Difficult times don't excuse you from discipline. Difficult times make discipline more important. One of the greatest gifts of living a disciplined life is the impact it has on the people around you. When you live with discipline, when you consistently do what you say you're going to do, when you take care of yourself and pursue your goals with dedication, you become an example. You become an inspiration. You become proof that change is possible. Your children watch how you live. Your spouse watches how you handle challenges. Your friends watch how you pursue your dreams. Your colleagues watch how you manage your responsibilities. And what they see in you either elevates them or excuses them. Your discipline either challenges them to be better or gives them permission to stay the same. This is a responsibility that comes with disciplined living. When you become disciplined, you become a leader, not because you're trying to lead, but because leadership is what discipline creates. People naturally follow those who have mastered themselves. They naturally respect those who do what they say they're going to do. They naturally trust those who are reliable and consistent. I've had countless people tell me over the years that watching my daily habits inspired them to change their own. They said seeing someone consistently read, consistently exercise, consistently work on their goals, made them believe that they could do the same. They said that if I could be disciplined, maybe they could be disciplined too. This is the legacy of a disciplined life. It's not just what you achieve for yourself. It's what you inspire in others. It's the permission you give other people to believe in themselves. It's the example you set that says change is possible, growth is possible, success is possible. But perhaps the greatest reward of long-term discipline is the relationship you develop with yourself. When you consistently keep the promises you make to yourself, when you consistently take care of yourself, when you consistently work toward your goals, you develop a deep trust in yourself. You develop unshakable confidence. You develop genuine self-respect. This is different from the temporary confidence that comes from a single achievement. This is different from the conditional self-worth that depends on external validation. This is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can count on yourself. The deep self-respect that comes from living with integrity. The unshakable belief in yourself that comes from years of evidence that you do what you say you're going to do. When you have this kind of relationship with yourself, everything else becomes possible. You set bigger goals because you trust yourself to achieve them. You take bigger risks because you trust yourself to handle the consequences. You pursue bigger dreams because you trust yourself to do the work required to make them reality. So let me leave you with this challenge. Starting today, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, but today, choose one small discipline and commit to it. Choose something so small you can't fail. Something so simple you can do it even on your worst day. Something so manageable that you have no excuse not to do it. Maybe it's reading one page of a good book every day. Maybe it's doing 10 push-ups every morning. Maybe it's writing down 3 things you're grateful for every night. Maybe it's saving $1 every day. Whatever you choose, make sure it's small enough to be sustainable and simple enough to be consistent. Then do it every day for 30 days. Not because 30 days will transform your life, but because 30 days will transform your belief in yourself. 30 days will prove to you that you can be disciplined. 30 days will show you that you can keep promises to yourself. 30 days will demonstrate that you can change. After 30 days, add another small discipline, then another, then another. Build your discipline muscle gradually. Build your confidence slowly. Build your new identity one day at a time. Remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent. You don't have to change everything at once. You just have to change one thing at a time. You don't have to be disciplined in every area of your life immediately. You just have to be disciplined in one area until it becomes natural. Then add another. Discipline is not a destination. It's a way of traveling. It's not something you achieve once and then you're done. It's something you practice every day for the rest of your life. But here's the beautiful part. The more you practice it, the easier it becomes. The more natural it feels, the more you actually enjoy it. 5 years from now, you're going to be 5 years older. Whether you're disciplined or not, the question is, what kind of person do you want to be 5 years from now? Do you want to be the same person you are today with the same problems, the same limitations, the same results? Or do you want to be someone who has grown, someone who has achieved, someone who has become everything they're capable of becoming? The choice is yours. The time is now. The power is in your hands. Start building discipline today and watch your life transform. One day, one choice, one habit at a time. This is your moment. This is your opportunity. This is your chance to become the person you've always known you could be.